bringing tincture for the last day.
It's not a question about the last class, but I'm curious, if you don't smoke pot and you never have in your life, but you regularly hang out with a lot of people who do, to what extent, if any, can secondhand smoke affect you getting a drug test?
All right, so secondhand smoke drug test. Total bullshit. All right? You are not going to test positive unless you are literally like underneath a wheelbarrow and they're blowing smoke right in your face. Okay? So everybody who says blah, 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 I tested positive, but it was just because of my friends, fucking liar. Right, yes, there is the occasional false positive, but no. Contact high, okay? Everybody else is acting high, so my wife acts high too. That happens all the time, right? It's like, well, everybody else is going to be funny, I'll be funny too. And you guys laugh at everything, so why not, right? So no, the secondhand smoke does not lead to positive drug tests. Right? Unless you inhaled enough to notice. Right? I got a big call on the podcast last night about marijuana and menopause, and everybody went totally nuts. So my next new research project, if I send you an email and ask your mom to click on a link, understand. So gateway stuff seems clear, makes some sense. If I say marijuana, who's the guy? Who would you say?
Anthony?
2737 BC. Sinead? Huh? Could you name anybody who was in the hashish club? Everybody loves Balzac, right? Nothing like whipping out a Balzac for fun. Gautier. And then Moreau, M-O-R-E-A-U, he's supposedly the guy who got them all the hash. And then he published a book about cannabis and mental illness and stuff. Subjective effects, what happens to time? Alright. That was great. And anything about other sensations? Great. And how about the notorious impact on appetite? I think you guys are going to do okay on that. So let's move to general health effects of medical cannabis. So since that slide was made, we've made a little progress here. Every single one of these states with a nice green cross, including the District of Columbia, now has some kind of medical marijuana law on the books. Not exactly worked out all their distribution. Doesn't mean everybody there who needs it can get it. But something's going on here. Okay? When I first wrote the first edition of this book in 2002, it was California all by itself. New York State Assembly has a medical cannabis bill before it. If you have any interest in writing to your representative about it, feel free to email me. Okay. Times Union called me yesterday about a letter I'd written to them about this. I don't know if they're going to print it or not, but we'll see. Keep an eye out, because everybody reads the Times Union. You'll notice things started on the West Coast here, got a lot of East Coast exposure, but the Midwest is not exactly embracing this. All right? Columbia, Missouri has the lowest police enforcement priority law. What's that? Well, as its name implies, this should be lowest priority for the police. Okay? If police catch you with pot, what they're supposed to do is take your pot and tell you to go home. Okay? They can write you a ticket, that kind of thing. We've seen from data in Australia and some other places, this probably works just as well as anything else we have. Harsher penalties do not seem to decrease use. When medical marijuana laws first got passed, what was everybody's big worry? What about the children? What about the children? What child wants grandma's anti-nausea med? And in fact, the data from California, Rod Skager suggests there's been no increase in California since passing medical marijuana laws. And then Karen O'Keefe of Marijuana Policy Project and I went through every single state so far. If it's gone up, it's because the whole country has gone up and it hasn't gone up anywhere near as much. Or it stayed flat. So medical marijuana laws don't seem to increase teen use. That said, we have to kind of keep medical marijuana in perspective. Okay, the problem is, I go see friends in California and they think medical marijuana is the fountain of youth. Right? They think medical marijuana cures everything. And what's the word for a cure-all? Panacea. P-A-N-A-C-E-A. Marijuana is not a panacea. Right? If you have an infection, go to the doctor and get an antibiotic. Don't smoke pot. Duh. All right? Sore throat, marijuana doesn't help. Okay? Whole bunch of shit that marijuana doesn't do anything for. It just makes you high. So we have to keep the costs and benefits in mind when we're evaluating this as a medicine or any medicine. All right? What's cannabis' big advantage? Compared to a lot of meds, it's relatively cheap. You can control dosage easily, so if you don't want a lot, you don't have to have a lot. Who doesn't want a lot? That's the problem. Idiographic reactions. This plant is not for everyone, as we talked about with subjective effects. Okay? It's that way for every medicine, though. There are antidepressants that don't work for some people, like all of them. There are anxiolytics that work better, some better than others for different people. That's just how we are. We're all different. That's a beautiful thing. Marinol. What's Marinol? Okay, the trade name, the technical name, dronabinol. It's not ringing a bell? Okay. Literally, THC synthetically formed in sesame oil in a little pill. All right? It's just THC by itself. It's a pill, so it's orally administered. How long does it take for a pill to kick in? At best. Right? You can wait 3 hours. What's your controlled dosage for a sesame oil pill? Can you cut it in half? No, all this oil will drip out. Right? So we have a little problem here. Delayed onset because it's orally administered. Your choice of dosage is limited. Okay. Is it as cheap as pot? No. All right, it's probably going to go generic relatively soon. Right? But $15 worth of Marinol does what about $3 worth of pot does. Right? And that's during Prohibition. Right? If we didn't have Prohibition, pot would cost about as much as hay, but I'm not going to get into that. Right? Obviously, any orally administered drug is not going to have its impact as rapidly as inhaled vapor. Right? Nausea and vomiting. Okay. When was the last time you were really nauseated and vomiting? Who was hungover this morning? Whose birthday was last night? All right. The last thing you want to do is swallow a pill. All right. chemotherapy-related vomiting, right? And the nurse is like, I'm going to go through your vomit and find that pill so you can swallow it again. Like, come on. That's not going to happen. Inhaled vapor, what a surprise, you don't throw it up. Adjunct or combo. Lots and lots of drugs, particularly the painkillers, are great, but you develop tolerance to them quickly. And if you had cannabis as a painkiller too, you wouldn't use as much. Lower doses mean less tolerance development, and so it goes, particularly what kind of drugs. Where would you be worried about pain and tolerance and the opiates, right? Because you're going to get up to a lethal dose, and that's going to be a drag. So all I really want to focus on is drug safety. Is marijuana completely harmless? No. Is water completely harmless? We'll fucking drown every day. Right? Is fire completely harmless? No, fires burn shit down. Right? Should we make fire and water illegal? Should fire and water be Schedule 1? No. But let's focus on the safety. Okay? And I like this expression even better than harm reduction because it's all about safety. Right? When you say harm reduction, what do you think about? Harm. Drug safety. Safety. I'm safe.